You were talking about a situation that happened in college where you had a paper that you had written wasn't looked upon fairly, or perhaps even just objectively by the professor. Tell the folks about that situation.
Sure. I went to a small state school in Pennsylvania, and 4 different times in undergrad and twice at grad school, same university, my grade was knocked down a letter grade for taking a conservative position on a term paper, or in this case, a speech. It was a public speaking class, and basically there were 3 or 4 girls who stood up and gave pro-choice speeches, and of course they all received A's. And so I felt, this is an issue that needs to be discussed from a constitutional or federalist worldview. We don't hear enough about the fact that the Supreme Court does not have the authority to write law from the bench. Even if you agree with their decision, even if the Supreme Court were to write a pro-life decision, they don't have that authority. It belongs to the Congress, and the Supreme Court's job is to simply recognize whether or not it meets the constitutionality defined in the Constitution by our founding fathers. So I gave a speech from a Federalist position about how the Constitution was trampled on by the Supreme Court in Roe v. Wade. They did not allow the Congress to legislate. They legislated from the bench. They took the rights of, at that time, in '73, there were 30 states that had no abortion. They forced those 30 states to embrace abortion, stepping all over their 10th Amendment rights. And I also made the case that you could actually argue that there's a right to life in the Constitution through the 5th and especially 14th Amendments, which guarantee a right to life, liberty, and property, and that extends to the states through the 14th Amendment. So I just made an argument from a Federalist worldview that we should take a look at Roe v. Wade through that prism, through that constitutional worldview. And the professor screamed at me after the class was over, gave me a C+ after the 3 girls who gave a pro-choice speech received an A, and then proceeded to tell me that I had no right to talk about the Constitution because I wasn't an attorney. And so
as if that's a requirement while you're in school.
As if citizens must all be attorneys to read the Constitution. So I thought about that. I said, well, sir, based on your own argument that I need to be an attorney to read the Constitution, I said, then you have no right to give me a C+ because you're not a professor of law. You're a professor of communications.
Oh, wow.
And his jaw dropped and he walked away. So
now that's intimidation, and
yes,
that kind of intimidation can affect what people will do while they're in school, what kind of papers they'll write, what kind of speeches they'll make. That kind of fear is prevalent in our schools, isn't it?
It very much is. Once again, 4 times in undergrad and twice at grad school, same university, my grade was knocked down a letter grade or 2 for taking a conservative position. And I can honestly say, during undergrad, I had 1 conservative professor during the entire time in undergrad and 1 conservative professor at grad school. And those conservative professors were absolutely mistreated by the faculty. One of them, in fact, retired early just to get away from all the flack and all of the harassment that the liberal professors were giving him. He's a wonderful man who actually taught a class on Western civilization, and the students actually complained to the faculty that his class on Western civilization was too Eurocentric. It's a class on Western civilization,
right,
which is European history, and they said it was Eurocentric. They harassed him so much, and he retired early just to get away from the harassment. This is the kind of thing that we face as conservatives on campus. And I look back on that, and certainly it hurt my grade point average, but I kind of also think if I didn't stand my ground and I didn't take a peaceful step towards civil disobedience and speak my mind, even though I knew I was going to receive a lower letter grade, that maybe, just maybe, someone there heard the message and it caused them to think a little bit about what's really being done. Hopefully, my voice made a difference in spite of my having to take a lower letter grade.
Well, I think that in this particular case, and I've seen this before, my daughter had a situation where she was in 10th grade or so, and what they did was she had gotten a test, she did the test, they then the teacher marked the test down from like a B to a C or an A to a B, and she went back to the teacher and she said, well, why did you mark this wrong? It's the right answer. And the teacher smiled and told her, that's not the one I gave you. So it doesn't matter if we're teaching the right thing or if we're standing up for what's right, if people who are teaching us are opposing us and trying to shove us down. And this intimidation was so powerful in this case, I said, well, I'm going to let that teacher know what I think. And my daughter cried and she said, no, don't do that, because she will give me bad grades the rest of the year. Yeah. And that's the kind of thing that we're under, and we've got to stop being afraid of intimidation, don't we?
Yeah, we've got to be willing to take the blows, take the smears, and stand our ground, and hopefully win some respect in the end. I've learned that if you persevere, it's a biblical principle. If you persevere, in time you'll win. Maybe not everyone over, but some people, even if they disagree with you, will respect you for having the courage to have a spine and stand up for what you believe in. As long as you handle yourself in a fair and diplomatic manner, you don't come across as violent or mean or hostile. If you show yourself not to be some angry, bitter person, but someone who has convictions, along the way you'll actually win a few people over. Case in point, after giving that speech, the Federalist argument on Roe v. Wade, a girl came up to me in the cafeteria and thanked me for my speech. She had grown up Catholic, but was dealing with whether or not she was pro-life or pro-choice, and said that my speech convinced her to stay pro-life.
All right.
So, every little bit helps.
That's for sure. We deal in a situation and in a society where it's I'm right and you're stupid. That's the way they treat us. Right. And everything they try to present to us is, okay, you're just not smart enough to understand what's really going on. That's why we need to be in power. Right. That's the way they, I think, try to make it seem to us. And we've got to stop this. It's up to us. We're the ones who have to get out there and get involved and do more, stand up for what we believe in. Isn't that right?
And the point you made, that they demonize and smear us in order to shame us so that we don't speak up and call us dumb. The way to prove or disprove their charge is to show that you really are intelligent. Put together an intelligent argument, not based on emotion or knee-jerk reactions or impulsivity or feelings, but based on logic, based on reason, based on the Constitution of the United States. Research the Federalist Papers, research the Founding Fathers, read what they said, stand your ground based on the facts and based on information, and show that you're not uninformed, show that you're not unintelligent. And again, like that young girl who approached me in the cafeteria, you can win a few people over in the course of standing your ground.
That's for sure. Thanks for taking the time.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
Appreciate it.